Hey there, folks. Nicky Sophine here. Well, all I have to do is just show you this, and you know exactly what you're getting. And I can also show you this other title as well, The Red Dragon. For The Red Dragon, Anthony Hopkins reprises his Oscar-winning role as the infamous Dr. Hannibal Lecter in the thrilling prequel critics are hailing as a suspenseful masterpiece. Fox TV. After capturing Dr. Lecter, FBI agent Will Graham, Edward Norton retires, only to be called back to active duty to hunt down elusive killer, the Tooth Fairy, played by Ralph Fiennes. Red Dragon is the electrifying, critically acclaimed movie that returns the series to the Silence of the Lamb form, says Jack Matthews of the New York Daily News. Yes, this is indeed a good movie right here. It is recommended, but of course, nothing can really compare to the original, The Silence of the Lambs right here. I mean, this is a near perfect movie, if not phenomenally based. You just think like it's amazing how we just have something so great right here. And yes, I am going to read all the liner notes as much as I can. Introduction by Jodie Foster. It's safe to say that no other experience in my life will ever rival Silence of the Lambs. From the first time I tore through the pages of Thomas Harris's brilliantly double detailed novel, to collaborating with my fellow artists in craftsmanship, to riding the roller coaster of Oscar sweep night, the film experience has always felt like a blessed thing. I can see the irony. After all, Silence is dark. An entire generation of moviegoers still dream of the grimacing horror of Dr. Cannibal, Dr. Lecter, and his vicious disciple Buffalo Bill. But let's not forget Clarice Sterling and her reassuring pulse of humanity. Her mission, after all, is to save women, to face monsters inside and out, and to stop the god-awful screaming of the lambs. No one understood the strong-hearted principle quite like Jonathan Demme. His classic vision of the female hero jump-started a new generation of cinema. He managed to entertain and tease while challenging the audience to think and feel deeply. It felt like a magic trick, that and pure inspiration. I know that all of us, Jonathan's loving collaborators, thank him for taking us on the ride of our lives. We love you, JD. May that infuse a new viewing in your film with all the emotion you intended. November 2017. Amy Toblin writes this. When Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs opened in theaters on Valentine's Day 1991, it was clearly one of those rare movies that at once of their moment ahead of their time. Many years later, it remains both those things. As a fluid hybrid of gothic horror film, psychological thriller, and law enforcement procedural, in other words, a genre picture, it was almost anomalous for having A-list stars, a serious director, and high-end production values. The critics were laudatory, save a few who were offended. The hooded cobra eyes of Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins, the cannibalistic serial killer, appeared out from the front pages and covers of newspapers and news magazines. The box office was excellent, and most surprisingly, the film won 5 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor Hopkins, Best Actress Jodie Foster, and Best Adapted Screenplay Ted Talley. Only the second movie to ever win in all 5 of those categories. The Silence of the Lambs was not the first art film or prestige picture to take on the subject of the serial killer. Classic examples include Fritz Lang's M, Charlie Chaplin's Monsieur Vaudou, and more peripherally G.W. Pabst's Pandora's Box. These films depict respectively 3 pathological archetypes: the child murderer, the Bluebeard figure whose victims are his wives, good women, and Jack the Ripper, who specializes in killing prostitutes, bad women. But it wasn't until Psycho that Alfred Hitchcock, by crossing the horror movie with a psychological thriller, established the conventions that have ruled the genre for nearly 60 years. Psycho was adapted from Robert Bloch's 1959 true crime bestseller based on the case of Ed Gein, a small-town Wisconsin handyman. His necrophiliac compulsions escalated from digging up corpses, most of them buried in the immediate vicinity of the body of his mother, to murdering at least 2 women. He kept as trophies of his victims, their heads and pieces of their skin. In addition to Psycho, Gein partly inspired such disparate films as Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, James Bending's avant-garde Landscape Suicide 1989 and 1987, and Silence. No stranger to movie violence and horror, Demme made his first feature, Caged Heat, and Crazy Mama, and the Roger Corman's exploitation factory, but his appreciation for oddballs and underdogs soon surfaced. In Citizens Band 1977 and Melvin and Howard 1980, literally and figuratively, his filmography is all over the map. Whether big or small, fiction or documentary, every one of his films is undoubtedly Dem-esque, marked by passion for social justice, a love of music, and generosity of spirit that allowed him to see the possibility of a better world, even at the risk of sentimentality. His live performance documentaries, including the 1984 Stop Making Sense, The Talking Heads in concert, and 1987 Swimming into Cambodia, Spalding Gray's most political monologue, and his documentaries about political activism, Haiti Dreams of Democracy, 88, and Cousin Bobby, 92, are as memorable as Philadelphia, 93, the first big Hollywood movie on the AIDS crisis. I'm just finding some of this stuff out. And as imperfect as they are, Something Wild, 86, and Rachel Getting Married, 2008, are largely pleasurable movies that provoke heated and productive discussions by female-identified audiences around gender and race. All told, however, Silence is the filmmaker's most fulfilled and engrossing work. Dems dive into the deviant undercurrents of America at the end of the Reagan-Bush era gripped audiences who had been primed by another auteurs breaking the barriers between art and exploitation. Moody and visceral, as no primetime series had ever been before, David Lynch's Twin Peaks was a twisted tale found on the naked corpse of a teenage girl, Laura Palmer. Quarter of a century later, viewers who had been binging on the original Twin Peaks as it was released on various digital platforms, along with the prequel, the theatrical feature Fire Walk with Me, 92, avidly consumed Twin Peaks: The Return during an 18-episode run on Showtime, finding themselves trapped in a wormhole, also known as the Lynchian unconscious, where the homicidal law of the father is forever unchecked and unchanged. The return of Twin Peaks roughly coincides with the appearance of a new restoration of Silence in theaters. Now in this release, the dialectrician of gender popular culture relishes the timing. One thing that distinguishes Dem's film from Twin Peaks from the vast majority of serial killer investigation dramas, including those of another contemporary author, another David Fincher, is the fact that the hero is a woman. Clarence Sterling Foster matches wits with one serial killer, Hannibal Lecter, in order to elicit the clues that will allow her to track down another Buffalo Bill, Ted Levine, also known as Where's Candy Cane from Joyride, in time to save the latest young woman, Brooke Smith, whom Bill's preparing to murder. Fincher's Mindhunter series, which premiered in 2017, as well as his earlier serial killer narratives, Seven and Zodiac, follow the usual pattern of male law enforcement pursuing male murderers. Mindhunter and The Silence of the Lambs have a common source, the work of John Douglas and the Behavioral Science Unit of the FBI. The hero in the first film in which Hannibal appears, Michael Mann's Manhunter, is also based on real-life Douglas, who then reappears as Jack Crawford, Clarice's mentor, in Thomas Harris's novel Silence in 1988, which Dem's film is adapted. It was Harris who took the focus of Douglas in order to make his hero the embodiment of a law dedicated to putting a stop to the most perverse legacy of patriarchy, a woman. The collaboration between Talley, Dem, and Foster transformed Clarice into a more radically feminist character than she was in the novel. Faithful to Harris's plot, they shift its tone in meeting. Harris's Clarice, for all her courage and desire for independence, was still the good daughter who needed to be valued by the men in her life. She was emotionally tied not only to a real father, the policeman who left an orphan at age 11, but to substitute fathers, Lecter the bad and Crawford the good. Harris's Clarice became romantically involved with Crawford, an unconsummated, guilty, Oedipal attachment since he was unmarried and his wife was dying. The film Clarice has no romantic entanglements. Which, yeah. Blah, 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 blah. She refuses to be patronized by either Crawford or Lecter. In its deliberate, unabashed, and uncompromising feminism, The Silence of the Lambs is to the horror psychological thriller combo what Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber is to classical fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood. Both works take familiar stories, so familiar that they become part of our cultural unconsciousness, and then turn them upside down. When I interviewed Dem in '91, just before The Silence was released, he said that what immediately appealed to him in the script was the character of Clarice and the way Talley played with genre in his adaptation of Harris's novel. It's a suspense movie with a female protagonist who is never in sexual pair. It's a slash movie that is devoid not only of slasher scenes, but of the anticipation of seeing them. For a female viewer, for all viewers who allow themselves to identify with a female hero, it is harrowing, exhilarating, and sad beyond measure. The film calls up that mix of emotions from first to last. In one of the great opening sequences in narrative movie history, Dem places Clarice on a rough path through a thicket of towering trees. In early morning, mist envelops their guarded branches, nearly obscuring Clarice, who appears in the distance as if she's reaching the top of an unseen hill, continuing her run straight toward us as Dem's crane-mounted moving camera avoids so many traps. It doesn't stalk Clarice from behind or secretly peer at her through the tree trunks. It is simply her mirror. Thus, we are her mirror. She tests her endurance and agility on this FBI training course. It is also the forest of children's nightmares. Clarice is concentrated on the task at hand, but the gloomy setting, the threatening sounds all around her, and her most of all, Howard Shore's score, with its Mahler-like surging melodies and yearning harmonies, driven by an ominously accelerating bass line, speak to inchoate, I-N-C-H-O-A-T-E, fears and desires, and barely repressed feelings of abandonment and loss, everything she tries to vanquish with her commitment to law and order. Dem's direction is the mise-en-scene, and the score magnify Clarice's interiority. But even without them, those feelings would be evident in Foster's every glance and gesture. It is a complicated, perfectly calibrated performance, most expensively in its reticence and refusal of accommodation. The film cannot exist without her. Clarice's solitary run is interrupted just as she comes face to face with a hunt and the sign bearing the FBI's injunction. Hurt, agony, pain, love it, pride, by a male superior who tells her that Crawford, their boss, wants to see her. Clarice runs off. Dem holds onto his face, his puzzled expression at the first example of the reaction to her from every man whose path will she cross. What is this alien doing here? Crawford stands to Valley, Clarice. Yeah, I do not have the patience to write all this. So, a lot of notes here. This review will go on for 30 minutes, so yeah. You can figure out the rest from here. Yeah, I mean, these are freaking legendary notes, but they're just so long. So, you know, we just... Reading Hannibal Lecter, you can... I'm just going to hold this up. Go ahead and pause it anytime you want. I thought I would probably be here for 30 minutes, and I do not. I'm a patient man, but even for 30 minutes. Red Dragon, obviously everything that's pretty much just been stated about The Silence is freaking phenomenal. The running itself, and then of course when we get to actually the witticisms and intelligence that Anthony Hopkins provides this character itself, you know, just at first he does seem like the perfect gentleman, you know, complimenting her. And having some wits come about him, just like with the way how he phrases words, and manages to strike into the exact reservations and difficulties that Clarice is having. Whether it's like bringing up like why she moved in, like why she was in the why she moved away from adopted family, like why exactly she is wanting to go with the FBI in order to make a difference in the world. It's absolutely stunning, just what he does, and you just look at him alone, and just those eyes. Anthony Hopkins truly provided a legendary portrayal that was already inside a book. I mean, when you just even hear his words and the drawings and everything, it's just So freaking fantastic to look at. And of course, because he is considered the most dangerous criminal, you already know that there's something crazy, and it's like compared to the other inmates that are inside maximum security and stuff like that, they at least just have bars. Nope, he's got like glass that's preventing him from even be able to at least have the same I guess you could say view or whatever. I mean, those eyes alone. It's like he knows exactly what his fate is, and he's accepted that. It's like he reads and he writes, and it's just, I mean, yeah. When he's up in that cell alone, and you just look at him, and he's got that masonry, those bricks as his only view. It's just absolutely intense to look at. It is a chilling adaptation of the best-selling novel by Thomas Harris. The astonishingly versatile director Jonathan Demme crafted a taut psychological thriller about an American obsession, serial murder. As Clarice Starling, an FBI trainee who enlists the help of the infamous Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter to gain insight into the mind of another killer, Jodie Foster subverts classic gender dynamics and gives us one of the most memorable performances of her career. As her foil, Anthony Hopkins is the archetypal anti-hero, cultured, quick-witted, and savagely murderous, delivering a harrowing portrayal of humanity gone terribly wrong, a gripping police procedural, and a disquieting immersion to a twisted psyche. The Silence of the Lambs swept the Academy Awards. Best Picture, what I just said, it remains a cultural touchstone. G.D. Wright it does in at 2 hours. I mean, this movie just freaking goes by at just such a pace. It's just like, wow. Yeah. I mean, but of course, there's the legendary scene of which he is being transported. He's got a mask in front of him just to prevent him from even consuming anything. It's just absolutely insane. It's like he's got just this, not wheelchair apparatus, I guess kind of like a dolly is used to transport him, like a dolly, and of course he can't even eat anything. They're like truly preventing him. I'm like, this scene alone, just that visage alone has influenced popular culture. I mean, there was even an episode of Simpsons where Bart is pretty much in the same thing, and I'm like, young age, I didn't know what was going on, but now that I see is like a truly cannibalistic, murderous man, it's just like, it's just savage and everything else. I mean, but the fact that, and I think, when he's talking with the senator, or the senator lady, she's like, "Get that thing away from me." He says, 5'8", 180 pounds, fair complexion. Just the way how he delivers it in such a rapid fire manner. Again, just proving to the extreme sharpness of the script. I mean, it's those words stab and sting, but in such a good way. Again, adding to just how it's like to his wit, but also this is a police procedural, so it's like, yes, we have Foster who's portraying Starling, and she doesn't take any guff. She does face some, I guess, not intimidation, but some looks from her colleagues, who are like saying, so this is a woman who is defying gender stereotypes and expectations whilst here on the force. There's like at least a couple of times where they're all looking and glancing at her. It's like she is running just as much as we are. So it's like, without even being stated, you can already tell. You can get the tacit, that's implied or hidden meaning of the themes being presented. So it's like, one, she's very educated. Two, she's got the sentence formulations to be able to match wits with a true auteur. Three, she's able to run quite a good distance, as they're not, like I said, the camera's not stalking her, but more like we're just witnessing her. And there's some scenes like when they're viewing against the her colleagues, especially like when they're inside, what was that, a funeral home. And it's like they, at the same time, they respect her. At the same time, you still wonder what is she doing, you know? So, um, portraying and going against it. It's like, yes, this is what I want. It's like, yes, this is a strong female character, female empowerment right here, more than all some of the more over the top stuff going on nowadays. Yeah, and then we get to see what's his name. Yeah, Buffalo Bill, James something, I forgot how he, who was taken through some experiments or abuse, which they do say, and we just get to see him kind of like the after result of which he says, "I'm sorry, I am." He became so damaged that he's going around and just removing the skin off these women. I think it's called debridement in the medical community. I think, which is to remove like damaged skin, is called debridement, and nothing to do with a bride. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he does a good job of just portraying, like, you know, when he's listening to all the gothic or EDM music, you know, as in to give in the sense of like this is the more modern day esque protege, and you know, obviously there's something wrong going on with him, so he's just absolutely. Ted is so freaking great in this. You're just looking like, yeah, just give him a round of gosh darn applause. That's what you do. I mean, this is really, truly a freaking phenomenal movie. I mean, this is, what, Spine number 13? Just goes to show how early it was when Criterion released it. They immediately picked this up. So, yeah. Anthony Hopkins, you know, he's known, I looked him up. He's 87 years old, still going pretty dang good. Um, he, he would often read the script upwards of 200 times, or at least his lines. So that way he'd be able to get everything done in one take. You know, it's like, in order to just get the right performance, he would get into the character. Not method acting, but an understanding of what's going on and not being a jerk. And he was hoping to break through here in the States and finally, you know, like performing on stage. And yes, that's phenomenal and all, but he wanted to break through in America. This was it. 100 gosh darn percent. And yeah. And then he would appear in Red Dragon, which is pretty darn good, brilliant, darkly seductive. Yes, this one he does appear here. We still get to see the jail cell, right down to yeah, right down, I think, even to where the sink is of all things. He is in here, but this is really more of the Rafe Fiennes show, if you will. I think that this was pre-Voldemort Rafe Fiennes. So yeah, it's we get Edward Norton, who's at once able to who uses great deduction and great deduction, looking over the little details. Like he wants to see our the villain here is like, hey, there's something going on with him. And so he's wondering, okay, how is it that he was able to, like, how can he find fingerprints? He puts two and two together, like how there's a shattered mirror and how there were glass shards inserted into the orbital socket to make it seem like the victims were alive when he gave a performance, and how that they found some ingredient or whatever inside. But however, at the same time, so the Tooth Fairy murderer had to take gloves off for a moment and put the finger and insert the shards in the socket with with the fingers, leaving some prints there, and he was able to deduce from there how like how this happened. You know, that was some intense stuff right there. And of course, there's a reference to, what was that? Something with the Bible, something like the Red Dragon, which was holding a woman named Israel. Was that Philippines 5:2 or something like that? I barely know anything about the Bible. But it was like, in order for it to become whole, he has to go around and devour some women, which has to more like that he is trying to be this transcendent next generation of serial murderer. and it fits mostly well, which I think is good. We get to see his split personality of the Red Dragon and how he's starting to fall for a woman. You know, he's like he doesn't want to hurt the woman because he sees her. He sees the woman who works at a video like production store, you know, transferring stuff on a DVD and stuff. Sees her, doesn't want to hurt her because of the blindness, and can relate and sympathize. And yes, he too also suffered abuse from his grandmother of all things, and just led to not great results. Let's just put it that way. But eventually, we get to see Fiennes performing really well as of being a straightforward person, and also him trying to prevent the other side from taking over, and he's willing to do what he can, you know, like holding himself like this and just willing to do anything, whatever possible to just prevent it. Like, especially during the last 30 minutes when he's trying to, no, yeah, 35 minutes where he's trying to just get everything held in, and it just works well. The cinematography is great in both movies, very specifically for Silence. I would say The Well, where the senator's daughter is held, you know, it's like a dirty, grimy apartment or a section or of a house where she's in, and the sequence of which Foster goes inside as she is trying to have the final showdown with Buffalo Bill. I mean, it's green and it's just beautiful to look at. I mean, that was just phenomenal, period. And in Red Dragon, the house that they were in, just the shots of like just how everything is just so empty and just forlorn. These movies are both brilliantly well. For the Dragon, I would say if there was some moments of weakness, maybe we don't get enough of Anthony Hopkins. I would have liked maybe a little bit more from him. What we get is fantastic. Two, some people may say that Norton plays the role a little too well, how he just is able to solve things just like that. And I'm like, yeah, he's also a detective, so I can see where you're coming from, but you also apply some logic and common sense to it, which is good. And yes, maybe it does linger a little bit around the hour 30-minute mark. I did notice that, but whatever. This is still a freaking great movie, so yeah, like I said, if you ever do get the chance, please, I'm begging you, watch Silence of the Lambs and then The Red Dragon out.